right, our next lecturer is Nick Bernal from Seasons Farms, and he's going to be talking about the future of mangoes. This guy is a mango man. He is a genius mango grower. So I want to turn it over to Nick and allow him to tell you a little bit about what he's got. Thanks.
Thank you. Great introduction. How's everybody doing today? Nice and cool outside, right? Nothing like the South Florida winter. For those of you who aren't from South Florida, this is like winter time. I think August and September are much worse, so get ready. Thank God for air conditioning. Thank you for the introduction, Amy. My name is Nick Bernal. This company is Seasons Farm Fresh, and I've been selling fruit for the last 14 years. We focus on specialty exotic fruits, guanabana, chirimoya, rambutan, lychee, and technical difficulties here. And mangoes, of course. We import, hold on one second. We import mangoes from 9 different countries, all sorts of mangoes. Mostly of what we do is like these type of mangoes here, specialty mangoes. We don't really do run-of-the-mill Tommy, Hayden, Keaton, Kent, unless it's for a specialty like green mango. So we've been growing in South Florida. It turned off? Damn.
Yeah.
Oh, battery's not. But I'm plugged in now. It says
Oh, not plugged into here. You got to plug into here.
Technical difficulties, 1 second. We're good?
There you go. Now you're plugged in.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
We do grow some mangoes here in South Florida, but a majority of the mangoes that we produce, that we purchase, that we commercialize come from abroad. As I mentioned, we have 9 countries that we're currently working with, everywhere from Asia to Central and South America, the Caribbean, wide range of mangoes. The orientation of this talk is really to talk about mangoes, where we are in the marketplace as a whole, and where I see, which is an opinion, the future of mangoes going. So this is a little bit about our company, Seasons Farm Fresh. We distribute and import fresh fruits all throughout the U.S., Seattle to Canada, Boston to L.A., everything in between. And we import from 19 countries, different products, mangoes from 9 different countries, and we try and find the best of the best, which is often difficult given the logistics, and now we have tariffs. There's so many things in play that the average consumer has no idea what it takes to get that fruit to your plate. So hopefully after this talk, you have a little bit more appreciation when you go to a supermarket and you pick up a piece of fruit, how many hands had to touch that, how many planes, trains, automobiles it had to go on before you could actually buy that fruit at Whole Foods, Publix, or wherever. This is a little bit about what we do. We do quite a bit of citrus, but my main passion is focused on the tropical side. I started this company really selling lychees out of the back of my car when I was a graduate student at the University of Miami, helped to pay for school books. And from that, we kind of grew the company to diversifying in more tropicals, a lot here in South Florida, and then we branched off and went internationally. These are some of our biggest sellers. Hopefully you guys recognize some of these fruits, rambutan, lychee, soursop, chirimoya. But I'm really here to talk about mango, the king of fruits. Right now, the U.S. mango market, 98% of the fruit is imported. So you guys are truly blessed. You're here in South Florida. You get to eat the best mangoes almost anywhere in the world. Most of the commercial varieties that are grown, the Tommy Atkins, the Kent, the Kit, the Hayden, all were developed within 10 miles of where we're standing right now. So all those thousands and thousands of hectares that are in Mexico and Brazil and Peru and Ecuador, the original rootstock, the original varieties all came here from South Florida. We have institutions like Fairchild. David Fairchild have been importing mangoes in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Just down the road, we have Chapman Field, which is a USDA research facility. They're doing all these sorts of crosses and figuring out what are the next good mangoes. We have the University of Florida TREC, the Tropical Research Extension, which is down in Homestead. So you have a lot of academic work on mangoes going on here. And Fairchild and this festival, we're trying to make it into not just a fun event for the family and for you guys to come and eat mangoes and have a couple beers and sweat, like we're all definitely here sweating, but also for people to really learn about mangoes and learn that there's more than meets the eye and figure out what you like. And hopefully everybody here can buy trees and plant mangoes in their backyard. And even if you live in a condo, there are such things as condo mangoes that'll fruit inside of a pot. So 98% of the fruit's imported. There's been a 63% growth in consumption over the last 10 years. Mangoes have traditionally been consumed on the coasts, basically from Boston down to Miami and then up through Texas and California, just because that's where most of the ethnic diaspora lives. You have a lot of immigration coming in from the Caribbean, a lot of Jamaicans here, and Jamaicans will kill you for a mango. Almost more than Indians and Pakistanis, which is a controversial subject, but I'll say it. We import mangoes from Jamaica. I'll get to talk about that a little bit later. Sorry we don't have any here. The season ended early. There's no Julies, no East Indians, so you don't have to ask me after the show. What's been happening with the help of the National Mango Board is that mango consumption has been growing year after year, and it's been penetrating into the center part of the country. We're getting orders for mangoes in Iowa, in Kansas, in Minnesota, in South Dakota. I have friends who live in Nebraska from Miami, and the one thing he missed as a Cuban guy was eating mangoes. And he sent me a picture 3-4 weeks ago from a store in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it was a mango stand. You would have thought you were in Miami. So people that are Americans, that are not East Asians, that are not Indians, that are not South Asians, that are not Latinos or Caribbeans are starting to get a taste for mango, and they're starting to really realize how great mango is, things that we've known our whole lives. I'm born and raised here in South Florida, and I remember as a little kid, grabbing mangoes off the tree, your neighbor's tree, any tree you could find. And that's the experience that us as importers and marketers, that's what we're trying to give people, that experience to get them to continue to consume mangoes, not just because they grew up with that mango, but because they start to really appreciate and like the mango. So 2022, we imported approximately 575,000 metric tons with a value of about 600 million. The bulk of the market share, most mangoes that you see in the US come from Mexico. And then in the off season, they come in from Peru, from Ecuador, from Brazil. What's important to note, I don't know if this is gonna work or not. No, well, there's two varieties of mangoes. You have red mangoes and you have yellow mangoes. The yellow mangoes on the top, some varieties you might be familiar with, the Ataulfo, the Madame Francis. Those are mangoes that are, obviously they ripen, they turn yellow. They can be somewhat fibrous, very complex flavor profile. But most of the mangoes you see when you go to the store are what's known as the red varieties, the red mango, which would be Hayden, Key, Kent, and Tommy Atkins. And that's your run-of-the-mill, I call it regular mango. Oh, move over here, sorry. Yeah. Further back? Right, sorry. Feedback. That's your run-of-the-mill mango that you'll see in the stores. You go to Publix, you go to Walmart, you go to Winn-Dixie. Most of the mangoes that are commercialized here are Tommy Atkins variety with some Keats and Kents coming in. Not my favorite mango, but when the mango was developed, it's very strong. It ships very well. It turns red like an apple. That's a book that I read from David Fairchild. That's why Americans tended to drift towards that mango, because it looked something like an apple, like a fruit that they already knew. So when they started developing these commercial varieties and taking the mangoes out of the country, everybody wanted their fruit to be red, beautiful, blush, and ship well. So that's why the Tommy it's taken over. Not a great mango, but yeah, it's better than no mango. So here's kind of the volumes by origin in the U.S. The green is Mexico, so you see the spikes. When Mexico's in season, they kind of dominate the market. The price of mangoes gets very, very cheap when Mexico's here, so it's difficult to compete. The only way that South Florida really has a domestic mango program is because we're growing cool cultivars like what you see here. If you go visit Lara from Lara Farms, you go visit the mango tent, those different varieties where you can get a premium because the labor here is expensive, the land here is expensive when you're comparing to Guatemala, to Mexico, to Peru and Ecuador. So that's the only reason we really have a very small mango community here in South Florida. But as you can see, so you have Mexico, and then in the off season there's Brazil, Ecuador, and Peru. Here's a little bit on pricing. When Mexico's in the season right now, mango flats, which are 4 kilos, 8.8 pounds, you can buy them as cheap as $3. So the mangoes are very, very inexpensive, and they kind of flood the market. That's when you see mangoes everywhere. You see 2 mangoes for $1 sometimes at some of the ethnic stores. And the price fluctuates between $8 and $3 a box. So now we'll get to the part that I like to talk about. As a child, I read the book that David Fairchild wrote about him traveling the world and sourcing all these cool fruits, and it kind of inspired me to spend half my time on the road away from my family, who I love so much, but sometimes you got to be bringing new fruit to the U.S. So we source fruits from all over the world. Mangoes, we bring mangoes from domestically Florida and California. We bring mangoes from the island of Hispaniola, so Dominican Republic and Haiti, Grenada, Guatemala, Mexico, Colombia. We were the first ones to bring Colombian mangoes to the United States, Jamaica, Ecuador, Peru, Brazil. We brought mangoes from India, Pakistan, Vietnam, Thailand, and even as far as Australia. Australia has some amazing mangoes. R2E2, Calypso, really good varieties, very expensive, but a really good eating mango. And what most people in this country take for granted is that the mango is the most consumed fruit in the world, and it's not even close. You know, I always get that question, is it bananas, is it apples, is it grapes? But if you look at, obviously India is kind of pulling the whole trend upwards because in India, the mango consumption is through the roof. But in most countries that have mango production in the world, whether it be Haiti, whether it be Jamaica, whether it be Colombia, Brazil, China, Taiwan, there's a mango that people have an affinity to. And the way that we've learned to market the mangoes, and I cut my teeth on the Jamaican mangoes because dealing with Jamaicans is not easy. Everything is soon come, you know, and it's really hard working with the farmers and getting to understand how that the market is much bigger than Coronation Market in Kingston, and that took many years for us to develop. But I can tell you that when people are passionate about mangoes, they'll pay the price to get the mango there air freighted, they'll pay the price to have the mango irradiated, they'll pay the price to have whatever mango reminds them of home because you're really selling a story. Pakistan, India, Thailand, Vietnam, I mean, these groups grew up eating mangoes, not 1 a day, not 2 a day, 5 a day. So when it's season, they go hard for the mangoes and they pay the price. And you see that here. So these are some of the new projects we've worked on. We opened the Jamaican Mango Program in 2019. It's been steadily growing, but difficult. Most of the farms in Jamaica are very small, so it's hard to get consistent production. And they have a really bad problem with fruit fly. So whenever there's too much fruit fly, the USDA stops the program. Colombia, we started with the mango de azúcar. For those of you who don't know, I think we have some right here, but it's a small mango like the size of an egg, and you can actually eat the skin. You can eat all the way down to the seed like an apple. Grows on the Caribbean coast of Colombia. Grenada, we also opened up in 2022. Some other prototypical Caribbean mangoes, the Julie, the Ceylon, the Long, and we're in the process of opening up St. Vincent, St. Lucia, and reestablishing mangoes out of Honduras. So this is a brand that, not myself, I'm not this creative, but people on my team came up with. I'm not sure how, but I guess they saw the Miami Vice theme, they watched Scarface too many times. And this is a brand we kind of developed when we're trying to push the Miami mango to really help the resurgence of selling mangoes grown here, not just in Miami, but in South Florida. Yesterday we had a mango trade day where people in the trade, nursery people, importers, exporters, different sectors of the trade were invited. And one of the gentlemen, Dr. Crane, I think he gave a talk this morning, mentioned, and I don't know if he mentioned in his talk, but I thought it was interesting that mangoes now, there's more mangoes in Lee County than in Miami-Dade County. And there's more mangoes because of climate change being planted further and further north. I'm getting calls from growers in Kissimmee. I'm getting calls from people in Indian River on the west coast of Florida. So as climate's changing, this used to be the mango belt basically here. This part of east of US 1 going down to Homestead. And now you're seeing more and more mangoes north of West Palm Beach, which traditionally was very difficult because of the freeze. You know, it gets to below 35 degrees and a mango will die. So climate change, you know, it might be bad for a lot of things, sea level rise, but for mangoes, I guess it's good here in the state of Florida. So we're really trying to push ourselves, and there's also other companies as well, trying to push the consumption of locally grown Florida mangoes because it's so much better, because there is no phytosanitary treatment. When you go and eat a mango at a store, it has to be hot water treated, which is essentially boiled in a jacuzzi, I'll talk about that later, or irradiated, and it changes the flavor profile, it changes the life shelf. It's nothing like picking a mango off a tree, taking it home and letting it ripen on your counter. Here's some pictures of mangoes we bring in from the Dominican Republic, mangoes we bring in from Colombia, different places, just to show you the different variety of mangoes. A big growing segment of mangoes that we're seeing is the consumption of non-traditional, I think somebody called it non-traditional ripe mangoes. So basically green mangoes. Some cultures have a history of eating mangoes when they're completely green with lime, with salt, with tahini. So that market segment is growing every year. I mean, we import and we do deal with a lot of green mangoes out of South America and domestically. And that I'm seeing more and more demand for those type of mangoes, and also even baby mangoes. There's some cultures in Southeast Asia and South Asia that eat a mango that's maybe 2-3 inches, about this size with no seed. They cut them up, they make chutneys, they do a bunch of things with them. But those segments of the mango market are growing to the point where here in South Florida, I don't really know anybody who harvests keep mangoes ripe. They harvest almost all of them baby because the price point is much higher, and the Asian market pays the price. Here's some more mangoes. So another interesting thing that we're doing is shelf life studies. We're working with the USDA, with University of Florida Trek to try different mangoes and see, because for a mango to be commercially viable, a lot of these mangoes are great. I encourage you all to look at them, try them, but 99% of these mangoes would never be commercialized by myself or anybody else here with a company that sells fruit because you don't have the shelf life. From when you pick the mango to when you pack the mango to when you ship the mango to when it gets to the stores could be anywhere from 5 to 7 days. And in the store, you need that mango to have a certain amount of shelf life. So for that reason, most of these varieties, while they're very nice and beautiful and they taste good, are really backyard mangoes. Or a lot of the varieties, especially the Indian varieties, only grow in certain villages where you can only find them there. So we're constantly working with the universities, we're constantly working with the USDA in order to figure out what mangoes are new coming into the market and how the shelf life can actually impact whether they'll be able to be commercially viable or not. I'm 37 years old, and I'm not that old, but I can still remember when we were a kid, you go to the store and you had red grapes and green grapes. You had red apples and green apples. Now you go to the store and you have Cosmic Crisp, Cotton Candy. You have all these apples, all these grapes, 10 different varieties. And people such as my wife, and she doesn't buy the red grapes because my kids don't want them. They're $1.99 a pound. They buy the $5.99 a pound Cotton Candy grapes. So the market here for mangoes is going through that same shift. I think we've got to the point where people have seen the Tommies that have never been exposed to mangoes before, and now they're starting to see the Ataulfos and the Mingolos and the other ones, and they're asking, okay, we want something new, we want something better. So the mango market, yes, primarily is a handful of varieties of mangoes, which I don't think are very good, but there are mangoes coming into the fold. There are people developing new cultivars that are tastier, that are less fiber, that meet all the requirements we need for shelf life. Size is a big factor of the mangoes that can be sold in the store. You're not going to buy a mango like this if it costs you $5 a pound because it's a $15 piece of fruit. So it's not just selecting for the taste and the shelf life, it's selecting for the size as well. And then a big part of the international import of mangoes, which you don't have to deal with here in South Florida, is the logistics. Extremely perishable, especially a lot of these varieties out of Jamaica, a lot of these varieties out of the Caribbean, a lot of these varieties out of India and Pakistan, because they're picked closer to ripeness, so they have to come by air freight. You know, most of the mangoes come in by truck from Mexico, or they come in by sea from Brazil, Ecuador, Peru. The specialty mangoes, India, Pakistan, Australia, Southeast Asia, Jamaica, they all come in by air, because they're very delicate, very short shelf lives, which makes them extremely expensive. To give you an example, yesterday, on the border, a box of Tommy Atkins mangoes was $3. We were selling boxes of Jamaican mangoes at $45. So that shows you that there's a sector of the population, like anything, and it's not just the 1%, it's people who are passionate about the mangoes, willing to pay 15 times what a normal mango costs because that's what they want. I always like to throw in this slide, find it interesting, just so people, especially the backyard people, have an idea of the stages of ripeness. Stage 1, mature green, that's basically what you would eat for like a green mango salad, cut it up with lime, salt. Stage 6 is a mango that fell on the floor, or a mango that's like this color, you know, completely ripe. Basically, you touch the tree. I don't know if you ever go out to your yard in the morning, but I have mango trees in my backyard. And I'll go out, and when you tap it, just a slight tap and it comes off, that's stage 6. That's the best time to eat them. Even off the floor, you know, if it's a recent drop, you can eat it. Typically, mangoes get shipped anywhere between stage 2 and stage 4, depending if they're hot water treated or if they're irradiated. We try and harvest between stage 3 to stage 4 because that gives us enough color on the mangoes and enough shelf life that the stores aren't mad because all their mangoes spoiled and they can sell them and turn a profit. Irradiation, relatively new technology. I know it sounds scary. People think they're going to bite a mango, you're going to turn into the Incredible Hulk, grow a third arm. It hasn't happened yet. Our company is probably one of the leaders in bringing a lot of irradiated foods. We bring in lychees from South Africa. We bring in guavas from Mexico. We bring in mangoes from a bunch of different countries. But the important thing I'm going to leave you with, and this is just like my, home run here. I don't know if Dr. Campbell's here or not. He's not a big a fan of radiation as I am, but it doesn't make food radioactive. It doesn't compromise nutritional quality, flavor, or the appearance, but it actually helps to improve the shelf life, and it helps to give you, in my opinion, a better tasting mango because you can pick it closer to ripeness, and it doesn't change the flavor profiles for me personally and for the mangoes that we sell. It doesn't work for all the mangoes, but for the specialty mangoes, it's kind of becoming the future. The number of boxes out of Mexico 2 years ago was 4 million boxes. Now I heard this year there are 8 million boxes of irradiated fruit. So it's becoming more and more prevalent. If you see it, don't be afraid of it. It's not going to kill you. Not yet, at least. And this is just a bunch of different products that are irradiated. People don't even know: ground beef, crab meat, figs. So it's becoming more common everywhere. And here's a little bit about the shelf life studies on irradiation. You definitely get more shelf life. It's expensive as a process. The logistics are a pain, but you do see the benefits on the retail side, and the consumers also see the benefits. So with that being said, my presentation is short and sweet. I'd rather answer questions than go on for like an hour. But this is kind of what we're aiming for in not every supermarket, but a good chunk of the supermarkets across the United States. We have a sponsor here, the National Mango Board, that's been around since 1996, and it's a federally recognized board where us as mango growers and importers have to pay a duty on every mango box sold in the United States. It's a 3-5 cents, something like that, but it goes into a slush fund that the Mango Board, who's based out of Orlando, uses in order to market mangoes. Not from any specific country, but just mangoes in general. So the Mango Board is a sponsor here yesterday for the trade day and here for the festival. I believe they have a booth, information about mangoes, but their goal is to work with people like us and growers to kind of keep pushing mangoes and keep getting mango consumption up. With people like you that love mangoes, I don't think you're the problem, so just keep eating more mangoes throughout the whole year, not just right now. But we're trying to get mango consumption up in those states that aren't traditionally Idaho, Utah, where nobody knew what a mango was until 20 years ago. So this is kind of a display that one of the stores at Price Right in the Northeast. And we're really trying to push more stores to have this display, especially in mango season, because it's such a great fruit. We all know and we love mangoes. And in the summer, it's so plentiful and abundant that they can be sold at a price. I mean, some of these mangoes are 59 cents. So it's much cheaper than other fruits. We're trying to push it. We're doing the best we can. And that's it. I'll take some questions now.
Hi, thanks for your presentation. What's the best non-toxic way to handle all the pests for the trees?
You're saying like non-toxic as in organic?
Yeah.
I mean, they sell, how many trees do you have?
2.
Yeah, I mean, you can go buy organic sprays. You can use neem oil. Some people use like a soap dilution with water. It just depends. Do you want to spend the money or not? A lot of that stuff's pretty expensive, but neem oil you can find and you can do a dilution and spray it. And then there's some sort of, if you look up online, treating backyard mangoes with soap or with neem oil, it'll tell you the dilutions that you can do at home, and you just spray the trees.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks so much.
Thank you for the presentation. Could you explain the irradiation process? What does it mean for mango to be irradiated?
So in order to come into the country, there's 2 types of phytosanitary treatments that you have to do, because what they're trying to mitigate is the seed weevil and the fruit fly. So it's USDA has what's called quarantine treatments in order to prevent these pests from coming into the U.S. Mangoes are like guavas, tropical fruit. You see when they drop, you get a lot of flies. So hot water treatment, which is 99% of mangoes are hot water treated. You harvest a mango at origin, so in Ecuador and Mexico. You take it to a USDA approved plant, and then based on the size of the mango, you cook it in hot water for a certain amount of time. It's cheap, it's effective, you can move huge volumes, but the problem is you lose a lot of flavor profile because you have to harvest a more immature mango because you're essentially boiling it. Irradiation there's different irradiation plants in the US, but there's multiple types of radiation. But basically, the new irradiation is X-ray. So you take the mango, it goes through like a big airport scanner, gets hit with the X-rays, comes out, and if there's any pests on it, they're sterilized. So it's like almost a microwave. I'm using a very rough analogy, but it doesn't make it radioactive. It doesn't do any of that stuff. It's in and out.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi there. I actually have 2 questions, if you
Sure.
don't mind. So the first question is actually for my mom. We have, I'm going to mispronounce it probably, a Malika?
Yeah, Malika, yeah.
Malika mango, and we can't figure out when to pick it, when the best time to eat it or how to ripen it. We can't figure that part out. Do you have any insight?
Malika mangoes generally ripen more on the green side.
Yeah.
It's a difficult mango. It's an Indian mango. We sell a lot to our Indian customers. So it's hard to tell because, a lot of these mangoes turn yellow, turn red. Like you have to be blind not to know when they're ripe. Malika, you have to look at the size, but you can, depending on how often you're checking the trees, you go out and tap it. I'm assuming you want to eat the sweet mango, not when it's green. So you just have to look, when the fruit starts dropping, when you find the first 1 or 2 drops, then go start checking it. Malika has to be picked green, so you want to pick it a little before it's all ready, pick it 70, 80% ready and let it ripen in a garage or in a warm area.
Okay, like just like in a paper bag or something
No,
like that?
I don't ripen mangoes in
Okay.
paper bags.
Our method right now is waiting for the birds to get it. So when the birds start pecking at it, that's when we pick it and we just cut off what they ate.
Yeah, I mean,
and-
that is also another effective method.
Thank you. So my second question is completely different, and you kind of already touched on it a little bit, and that was about climate change. And I was wondering, as an importer or supplier, what sort of other trends have you seen as a result of climate change, either in the seasonality, the productivity, any issues, just kind of what are your own observations and trends that are associated? I know it's a little bit more complicated.
Mark, come and answer a question. He's also an importer, a friend of mine. No, I think what we've seen is obviously as climate's changing, in this instance that I described, they're growing more mangoes in the central part of the state, which is traditionally citrus country. And you told people 30 years ago that they're going to be planting mangoes in Indian River and in Orange County and significant mango growth, they would have told you you're crazy. We're seeing the same thing happen, as areas are getting drier. Mangoes generally prefers drier climates. So as areas are getting drier, as areas are getting wetter, mango production and fruit production in general is shifting. Some countries, we have to deal with hurricanes in the Caribbean and South America. So sometimes you get hit with a hurricane and you wipe out a crop. That happened to us in Grenada. We got hit with a hurricane last year and our whole guanabana crop for a year was done. You've got hurricanes, you've got extreme weather events, you have hail. So it's always changing. I mean, in this import business on the fruit side, you never know what to expect. Every day is different. No 2 days are ever the same. So we're having to deal with the climate change. It's increasing prices because it's taking longer to produce fruit in some areas. They're getting less yields. It's all over the place.
Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for your presentation, very educational. My question is, what is mean this black spot in the mangoes? Anyways, I eat it like that, but I always was a big question for me. What is that?
That's anthracnose. So it's
Thank you.
a bacterial infection. In South Florida, especially in areas that are wet, you get mildew, you get like powdery mildew, you get anthracnose. There's a few types of diseases, but yeah, that's just from not spraying the mangoes. I mean, and it depends where you live. If you're in a drier area or a wetter area, generally most of the mangoes traditionally were planted close to the ocean because you had that sea spray. So that salt that's in the air actually keeps the anthracnose away. It keeps the groves cool. But if you plant further west, if you're west of the Turnpike, if you're in the Homestead in the Redlands, if you're in West Broward or western part of West Palm Beach, sometimes it gets very humid and that humidity stays stagnant in the groves or by your trees. And that creates this anthracnose problem. You can eat it. I mean, we can't sell the mangoes like that because if it gets to the store, like Whole Foods, they don't want to buy those mangoes even though they're great mangoes. But you can just eat it, just take it off.
Yes,
I mean, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah, it is. Oh, well, yes, West Palm Beach have a street they call Florida Mango, and all the street, most of the houses have big, nice mangoes.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hi, thanks so far. Forgive me if you went over this in some of the lecture. I missed the first half of it. But if we're shopping for mangoes in a store year-round, what are a couple of things that we should look for quality and whatever?
It's a good question. I mean, right now, if you're in South Florida, you shouldn't be buying mangoes in a store unless they're locally grown mangoes at places like Whole Foods or Sprouts. I think there's enough places to get mangoes around here. But off-season, if you want to eat mangoes in October and November and December, I mean, generally, how it works is Mexico will supply mangoes from March until October. Then Ecuador comes in, and then Peru comes in. I think Brazil, Ecuador, Peru. So, and what to look for? I mean, just look for a nice, healthy-looking mango. They're not my favorite mangoes. I don't eat mangoes off-season. I'm kind of a traditionalist, but there are people who enjoy mangoes the whole year. So you just got to look for that the mangoes fit, that it doesn't have hot water damage. Like sometimes when the mangoes are hot water treated too much, they'll be like, it starts to sink in. The top part of the mango, it'll start to wrinkle. So you want to avoid those type of mangoes, but just a healthy, fit mango.
So you said Mexico, Peru, Brazil are good countries of origin?
They're all pretty good. I mean, they're not as good as this. I mean, the worst mango on this table is better than anything that comes out of those countries that's imported here. But, if you're jonesing for a mango in November, you got to buy what you can find.
Also, what's the reason that you don't ripen in paper bags?
I prefer to ripen them in the garage or outside. Because sometimes if it's in a paper bag, you can get too much humidity, and then it can cause the fruit to turn black. So I prefer we ripen on a table outside, under shade, or some people do it in a garage. I've heard people doing it in an oven. I don't like the oven method. I prefer in a room that's big so that the ethylene gas can escape so that it doesn't turn black.
What about just on the counter? You think
Yeah, you can leave it on the counter. It's fine.
Is that outside is best or in a garage?
Yeah, I mean, because your house is air conditioned, I'm assuming. So it's better to ripen the mango at 80, 90 degrees. It'll ripen faster and more uniform. But your house is fine. If you don't have access to outside, you can ripen on your counter.
Okay. And how about keeping them next to other fruits and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, you keep it next to bananas and stuff. It's going to, they're all ethylene producers, so they're all going to cause each other to ripen faster.
It just accelerates it? Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Nick. Good to see you. Back to the local market. Has there been a recent survey of the backyard and above varieties and trees and growers? I heard about one that I saw in Dr. Campbell's thing. It was 2002 or something. But I was thinking to embark on a project to kind of document the backyard and above, not the commercial scale here in Florida or South Florida. A survey of all the trees and local farms.
I know about that 2002 survey, but I don't think there's anything been done since then. It's actually a great idea to see what's here because there is a large amount of mangoes. I mean, I buy mangoes from people's yards here in Pinecrest.
Yeah.
They have 20, 30, 40 trees. So there is a good amount of mangoes that are being planted. I mean, Dr. Crane yesterday was showing us a graph that the mango production after Andrew was going straight down.
Yep.
And now it's actually coming back up.
Yep.
But it's being planted in more counties to Lee County, Henry County, counties further north. And that would be interesting, to see how many trees are really in Miami. You could probably do it with LiDAR, with satellite, with GIS,
Exactly.
kind of figure that out. I'm not really a technical expert, but that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I'm a technical expert, so I'd be down to do that. Yeah, so what size of trees, kind of grove and above would be interesting? 20 trees and above?
I mean, Dr. Campbell says if you have, 20 trees, you're a commercial grower now. So,
Okay.
The landscape has changed.
Yeah. Okay, cool, thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you for the presentation. I'm curious how many varieties of mangoes you're presenting here today, and what are your top 3 varieties?
Me personally, I think there's 52 varieties here that are here on I think they told me 52. Don't quote me on that, but that's what they told. I didn't count them. My favorite mango is a mango called the ice cream mango from Trinidad. And it's a mango that turns completely black on the tree, but when you eat it, it's like eating ice cream. And there's another mango from Jamaica, the Bombay mango, one of the best. You cut it in half, you put ice cream in it, you eat it. And then probably my third favorite mango is one of the new cultivars from Zil, like the coconut cream.
Coconut green?
Coconut cream. Yeah, they had some for sale over here. I think they're already done. But it tastes like you're eating a piña colada. So mangoes there's actual mango sommeliers now I was reading about. Mangoes have a lot of characteristics like fine wine, scotches. I mean, there's resin forward, there's sweet forward, there's tart. There's all sorts of different flavor profiles. So it's really what mangoes you like. What I like is irrelevant. Asian people, Southeast Asian people generally prefer a more crunchy mango, a more sweet, but also tart. Like the Kiu Savoy or the Nam Dak Mai or these type of mangoes. It depends where you're from. In Jamaica, they love East Indian mangoes, which are stringy. They're very sweet, like the Madame Francis, but they're very stringy, fibers all in your teeth. So.
Okay, thank you. I've never heard of coconut green, so
Coconut
I'll
cream,
go check it out.
There might be some outside, but try it. It's very good.
Okay, thank you.
Well, hi there. It was a good presentation.
Thank you.
I'm really, as an importer, how do you see in this current tariff environment, how do you see this all going to develop and whether that actually would increase U.S. production, or particularly Florida production, of local mangoes?
Man, we're going to go there. We're going to the tariffs. We're getting political.
I want to see.
Mark, was this a setup? I mean, look, most of the countries we import from, the tariffs are still at 10%. I mean, it depends what side of the day that the president wakes up on, what side of the bed he wakes up on. I mean, we're dealing with it day by day, but right now we're kind of operating under 10% for most of the countries. South Africa just got hit with 30%, so we do quite a bit of business there. That's going to change the dynamic of how we do business. But 10%, and I'm sure most importers are doing the same thing. We're eating part of it. the grower's eating part of it. You know, everybody's eating a little piece to try and mitigate the best they can. So it's not unbearable at this point. Now, if that changes to 20, 30, 40%, you know, that becomes a real dilemma on how we operate, because from what I found, most end users, most supermarkets, most retailers, they don't want to keep going up on the price, because there's only so much money somebody will pay for a mango at Publix. You're not going to pay $10 for a mango. So I think a lot of what we're doing is kind of a wait and see. A lot of our growers abroad are just, you know, hey, 10% fine. It's annoying when they pull the ACH from your account every single day for Uncle Sam. It's like getting taxed every single day. It's not fun, but it's a reality of life. So to answer your question, we in our company, we're kind of a wait and see, and most of our growers are the same thing, like 10%, all right, we're dealing with it. We pass off the cost that we can, but we're ending up eating most of it.
Yeah, but I think the biggest problem is Mexico, in the sense that Mexico is actually the largest exporter of mangoes in the U.S., right?
Correct.
And I understand
They have no tariff.
They have no tariff, so you know, that affects your ability to pass, let's say, every increase in tariffs.
Well, generally the Mexican mangoes, I mean, when Mexico's in, they don't have competition. I mean, nobody, you know, if we're selling Mingolos from the Dominican Republic or Jamaican mangoes, we're not competing with a $3 box of Tommy's from Mexico. So the fact that they come in with no duties, you know, no tariffs, it's an advantage. But then by the time they're out, you know, Ecuador, Peru, Brazil, they're all more...
They're out of business, basically.
Huh?
They're out of business,
right.
basically.
Exactly. So who knows what's going to happen in the long term? I have no idea what's going to happen. Monday, we could get a notice that the tariffs went to 100% or zero. So we're just operating with the best we can.
Well, we'll see tomorrow. Huh?
Yeah, we'll see tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question about trimming mangoes. I have one mango that I was blessed with 30 years ago. It's huge. It's about 25 feet in the air, and it delivers around 700 mangoes a year. Some years we don't get a lot, but it started to have small, I guess, mangoes that fell inside, and now we have 7 more trees. How do you go about trimming them? Is there some kind of guidelines? Is there a book you can recommend, or some company that'll help you, or do you need to trim it at all?
So 25 feet is pretty tall. You know, you have a hurricane and that tree can come down.
It's been felled twice already,
okay,
but never at the bottom, always about 13 feet in the air.
Generally, most mangoes for commercial production, they're topped, I've seen as low as 8 and I've seen as high as 12 feet. If it's a backyard tree, I mean, you can let it go as high as you want. The problem is that the mangoes at the top, you're gonna lose to sunburn, birds, wind, rain. So most of the mangoes at the top probably end up on the floor. What's generally recommended, if you ask Dr. Campbell, is to start, like people ask him, when do you start pruning a mango tree? He's like, as soon as you put it in the ground, you begin pruning it, and regularly. So for you to get that 25-foot tree under control, you would have to do a serious prune, which might affect the production the subsequent year. And then every year, you just prune 10, 20% of the branches. You know, you got to keep the tree happy. So it depends what you want to do. If you don't care, and it's just a tree in your house, I mean, let it grow as tall as you want. But
it doesn't matter whether you keep it at a certain height versus others, because some people say if it's short, it'll give you more fruit, those kind of things.
No, I think for your purposes, if it gives you 800 mangoes or 600 mangoes, you don't care.
Yeah.
So
I have to give them all away.
Exactly.
Thank you very much.
All right, everybody.
Thank you.
Let's give a big round of applause to Nick, please, everybody.